Hello, this is Voss Graham, and I'm here again today to talk about topics of interest to leaders that you need to be thinking about or would be helpful for your career and, most importantly, the success of your organization. The thing I want to talk about today, which is probably a little different from what I usually talk about, is awareness. Awareness. Awareness of the need for change, that something that we have held in the status quo in our comfort zone is no longer working properly and can cause us a real issue. Now, it's pretty simple in reality, and I use some analogies. I mean, this really came to my attention and caused me to have some thoughts this past football season when I was watching the college football games, and I realized that there's something that's changed since I played football, and it's I think about, wow, if I had just been able to do it the way they do it now, how much better I could have been uh, when I was playing offensive tackle. So what I'm talking about now, this is kind of funny, and you former football players probably know this, but back in my day when I was playing, you could not use your hands. You could not grab a hold of the defensive guy at all. That was against the rules. Would immediately get illegal use of the hands and a penalty, loss of yardage in the whole 9 yards. And it was very frustrating because the linemen could beat you to death with their hands and arms and smack you upside the helmet and that sort of thing. And it was it's just very interesting times. Today, however, I've noticed, and I really started concentrating on this as I watched the line play and how they opened up holes. And I realized that today is totally different. Today they are taught to keep their hands inside the other person, the shoulder pads of the defensive lineman or linebacker and player, and just they grab hold of the jerseys. I mean, they even have gloves with stuff, and they latch on and they don't let go. Well, the key is you can't grab them. You can't do a bear hug and that sort of thing. That's against the rules still, but you can grab them as long as it's inside the shoulders and hold on. Well, golly, that to me was an awareness factor that struck me right between the eyeballs, and I said, man, that would have been so nice if I could have done that back then. Now, obviously, I'm a little ancient for today's football with the size and the speed and the strength of these guys, but uh, it's still, it's an example of what can happen without you really noticing it. It's just sort of a subtle thing that happens over time. Rules change, life changes, etc. Well, that's what happens to us as individuals and particularly leaders of companies. And I've had vast experience in seeing it and observing this. I know I've worked with a number of sales managers in the past, or executives who came from the sales side in what I call the old days, where everything was different. At that time, the salesperson ruled. I mean, there was no internet. The customers could not figure out what you had, any changes. So the salesperson was the key person who was delivering all the new information. They were the ones out there going, hey, pay attention, look at this. So they would come to the customers and the buyers and the prospects and educate them on what was available, talking about the benefits and the new features and all this kind of stuff. They were the source of information. If a customer had a question, they had to call the salesperson to get that answer. Today, they just pick up, or heck, they use their smartphone. Whoop, let me get this. There it is. They get their smartphone, and I call them dumb phones, but other than that, they can research everything they need to know about your product before even talking to somebody at your company. Well, hello, that's changed the environment of sales. The buyers actually, in a lot of companies, don't even want to talk to a salesperson anymore. They just want to find out what's available, and then they will call you for quotes or bids or other information if they're stumped, and particularly if it's something new, a new project that's more complex than they can handle by just shopping on the internet, then they'll bring the salesperson in to solve their problems or to help them figure out how to approach a major challenge a new or different way. So what I'm saying here is that a lot of times these sales managers that came where their background was in the past have not studied or learned the new ways of selling. The new ways of selling require a whole different mode of operation and techniques. There has to be more relationship building and understanding the dynamics of human nature. There has to be things of being able to challenge the status quo, but not offend the buyers at the same time, which can be, that's a challenge, but that separates the superstars from the also-rans and the people who are out looking for jobs or falling back into industries where it's more of a commodity basis, old school sales thing. And then also from a strategy standpoint, there's a lot of distribution companies that are still using the traditional methods of selling, and they don't understand why they are not showing any greater profits. Well, it's there's a one-to-one relationship there with profitability and complexity of sales and not being seen as a commodity salesperson. But that's just one thing. The other thing is executives who are leading their company. In some cases, they never think strategically, or they picked up a model from 30, 40 years ago, and they've been using that, even if they don't understand parts and pieces of it. Like every time I talk to an executive, most of the executives, now there are some exceptions of progressive leaders who understand that things have changed and require a different approach today, but you've got a lot of people who want, the one-day strategic idea. Half a day is even better for those folks. But there's also people who are using old processes. Everybody wants to use the values and the mission statement and then create goals and then everybody rah-rahs around the goals. But there's a lot more in-depth, a lot more important things than just those factors. And it's been proven with the research and the changing environments. I mean, you need to know your business concept. That will tell you what your primary strategy should be and how you should devote all your attention to that. And then what areas of excellence do you need to ensure that you have on board in order to dominate your market, dominate your region, product line, etc. But you've got to have that knowledge. And I know when I work with smaller companies, we don't do formal big super strategic plans anymore for small companies. And when I say small companies, any company that's below 100 people, they don't need a full-blown, put on the shelf type strategic plan. They do need a strategic marketing plan, however, and that is so important. I cannot talk about, I just can't emphasize that enough. And then there's also the major business concept that's running. You've got to figure that out, and that's been very exciting work when I do that with some of my private clients. Is that we have created a excellent dialogue amongst all the executives on what should their business look like from a business concept, which then leads us right through to the primary drivers of their strategy, what that strategy should be, how it changes the daily decisions within the executive team and throughout the company, and then what areas of excellence have to be in place in order to dominate in that strategy. But what I'm saying is, if you're not aware of these things and these changes and what is available, then you're using old techniques. You're in a comfort zone. You're in the status quo. it's hard to think that you will ever break out of doing the same thing you did last year with just a little growth of, if the economy is moving up, you move up. If the economy is moving down, you move down. Whereas other companies that pay attention to bigger and more important ideas, they don't care if it goes up, down, sideways, they're going to grow. I mean, that's as simple as that. Now, the leaders of organizations need to grow at the same time. And that's the emphasis that I put. Continuous learning is a critical aspect. You need to learn things. You need to become aware of things. You need to have dialogues with someone other than someone in your organization so that you can learn new things, be triggered with new ideas, get outside your comfort zone, and then break out, so to speak, and really create your own future. And that's what, with the weekends coming up, you could take a topic and read a couple of books on those topics, and that would be better use of time than maybe watching TV or old reruns, which some of us do. Occasionally, I have to say that I have fallen trapped to that watch reruns, like I don't already know the result, but it seems relaxing. But it's actually a waste of time. It's a distraction from my major purpose of life. And anyway, I don't want to berate that, but here's what you need to do. If you're interested in having a dialogue with me about this particular topic, either strategy or the idea of continuous improvement, or even being coached or mentored by someone who has over 50 years of business experience, then go to callvoss.com. I know I can help you as I've helped my clients. We can have a dialogue. I'm not going to sell you anything, but you can have a dialogue with me about you and your business, or and at the end of our call, if we feel like jointly, mutually, that we need to move forward, we can move forward. If not, that's fine too. I'll probably give you some recommendations of things that you could do, books that you could read, or information you could find to implement with your company and with yourself. And that's cool too. I want you to be able to grow. I mean, that's my purpose. I have a purpose that I follow, which is to get people to the next level, whatever that is. And we have to determine where they are today, where they desire to be at a certain point in time, and then how do we close that gap? And if we can close the gap faster than you can on your own, or through the help that I can provide, that's great. If you can do it yourself, no problem, but at least you'll know what the gap is and how to close it. All right, so again, you can go to callvoss.com, fill out a little bit of information so I'll know who you are, and then schedule our phone call. Anyway, have a great weekend, and thank you for your time today. Be good.